Vanessa Crow's white SUV stopped dead in the middle of the cattle field, its tires buried to the rims in a sheet of brown water that had not been there the night before. Behind her, 3 HOA board members shouted that the black rancher had destroyed their road. But whose road was it? Why were county survey flags lining the new creek bank? And why did the quiet man at the fence seem to know exactly which documents the inspectors were about to request? She had spent months treating his land like a shortcut she owned. By sunset, the mud would expose a secret buried in the HOA's records, and a mistake she could never pave over. Stay to the end, because the field was only the beginning. "Nobody moved the vehicle," Samuel Price said, as the SUV's rear wheel spun, throwing brown water across the door. Vanessa Crow shoved the window down. "Tell him to drain this. He flooded our access road." Isaiah Reed stood beyond the fence, boots in wet grass, one hand on the top rail. The air smelled of clay and cattle feed. Water slid past the buried tires with a steady hiss. "There is no access road," he said. Grant Holloway climbed out and sank ankle-deep before grabbing the mirror. "Residents are trapped behind us. The county entrance is half a mile east." Deputy Elena Ruiz stepped between the SUV and the fence. "Mr. Reed, did you open a dam?" "No." "Did you redirect water onto this field?" "I restored the channel the county approved." Vanessa laughed. "Approved by whom? Your barn?" Samuel crouched beside an orange survey flag. His silver hair lay flat in the mist. He wiped mud from a metal cap set level with the ground. "This is a monitored control point." "For what?" Vanessa asked. Samuel followed the flags toward young reeds, where clear water moved beneath the brown surface. A gauge blinked green. 3 residents stopped on the gravel shoulder. One raised a phone. Another stared at white stones vanishing below the creek. No one called it a road now. Grant wiped his trousers. "Isaiah, close whatever you opened, and we can discuss compensation." Isaiah looked at the laminated HOA agreement beneath the wiper. "That paper doesn't grant access to my land." "It has your father's signature," Vanessa snapped. "My father died in 2019. The wipers dragged once across the glass. Samuel turned. "What date is on it?" Vanessa reached for the page, but Elena peeled it free first. "August 2021. Grant looked toward the cattle. Vanessa opened the door, then froze when muddy water pressed against the sill. It was renewed. "There are records." "Then we'll inspect them," Samuel said. A low tone sounded from the gauge. He checked the display. "The basin is releasing within permit limits." "Permit limits for what project?" Vanessa asked. Isaiah removed a folded document from his jacket, sealed in a clear sleeve. He did not hand it over. He watched the gravel disappear beneath the creek. "Ask the county." The resident filming lowered her phone. "Mrs. Crow told us the rancher blocked an emergency route." Elena glanced toward the paved entrance beyond the mailboxes. "That entrance is open." "It was always open," Isaiah said. Only the creek moved. Water curled around the tire, carrying a red scrap of plastic downstream. Isaiah recognized part of the private property sign torn from his fence weeks earlier. Samuel stood. "Nobody leaves until I photograph the flags, the gauge, and this agreement." Vanessa reached for her phone. Her fingers shook. She tapped the wrong icon twice. "Who are you calling?" Grant asked. "The county attorney." Samuel faced Isaiah. "You expected this inspection?" "I expected the water. The inspection came because someone filed a complaint before sunrise." Elena looked from Vanessa's phone to the dated agreement. "Who filed it?" Vanessa said nothing. Across the field, the old creek widened another inch. Beneath the brown surface, a second orange flag slowly appeared. 73 days earlier, at 6:18 a.m., Isaiah Reed found the first fresh tire track cutting across the south pasture. The sun had not cleared the mesquite line. Dew cooled his work pants, and a calf bawled beyond the ridge. Isaiah set his red thermos on the fence post and crouched beside the rut. The clay was still soft. At least 12 vehicles had crossed since midnight. A pickup door slammed behind him. Naomi stepped down in navy scrubs, her dark curls tied beneath a faded cap. "You said one car." "Yesterday, it was one." She followed the tracks toward the new subdivision. A crushed paper cup lay beside the memorial bench. Gold letters from the HOA emblem caught the morning light. Naomi picked it up. They drove past Mom's bench. Isaiah brushed dust from the brass plaque but said nothing. "You need to call somebody." "I called last week." "And?" "They called it a neighbor dispute." A sedan appeared at the far gate. It rolled around the chain and entered the field as if following a painted lane. Isaiah stepped into the rut and raised one hand. The driver stopped 10 feet away. Her window lowered. "This is private land," Isaiah said. She glanced at his patched jacket, then at the cattle. "The main road adds 8 minutes. That does not change the boundary. Vanessa said we could use this until the new entrance opens." "What new entrance?" She tightened both hands on the wheel. Behind her, another car waited. "I'm late for work." Isaiah moved aside only after she reversed. The second driver swung through the grass, spraying damp soil across Isaiah's boots. Naomi stared after him. "He saw you." "Yes." "And he still did it." Isaiah wiped one boot against his calf. "Take a picture of the plate." She already had. By 7:05, 3 more cars had reached the fence. One turned back. 2 argued. A man in a golf shirt leaned across his passenger seat. "This path was here when we bought." "It is not a path," Isaiah replied. "It is a cattle field." "Then put up a better sign." Someone had pulled the wooden private property marker from the ground and laid it face down. Naomi lifted it through a smear of mud. "Better than this?" The man raised his window. When the engine faded, the pasture seemed too quiet. Flies circled the thermos. From the barn came the dry scrape of a loose hinge. Naomi set the cup on the fence rail. "Sell the back 40. Let them have the headache." Isaiah turned toward the bench. She regretted it before he answered. "I didn't mean—" "I know." He picked up the thermos. Marlene's initials near the handle were almost worn smooth. She had carried it through every calving season for 19 years. Naomi rested her hand on the post. "Dad, this isn't about one shortcut." "No." "What is it about?" Dust rose beyond the cedar trees. A white SUV had stopped at the subdivision gate. A woman in a cream coat stepped out, pointed across his pasture, and spoke to 2 men holding rolled maps. "It's about what they think silence means," Isaiah said. The woman looked directly toward him, then tapped the field on the map. Naomi lifted her phone. Isaiah reached for the fallen sign, but before he could reset it, the white SUV turned toward the open gate. The white SUV stopped 10 yards inside the gate. Vanessa Crow stepped out in polished boots that sank into the soil. She ignored the fallen sign. One man unrolled a map across the hood, while another photographed the ruts. Isaiah approached. Naomi stayed by the fence, phone raised. "You're on private property," he said. "Then tonight's meeting should interest you." "What meeting?" "The HOA board is formalizing an access route residents have used for months. The track across my pasture. A traditional entrance. A yellow line crossed the map from the subdivision gate to the county road. You drew that over my boundary." We'll discuss boundaries at 7. Grant Holloway rolled the map away. He was 45, broad-shouldered, and polished. This route saves emergency vehicles time. The public entrance is open. 8 minutes matters when families choose homes. Naomi lowered her phone. So, this is about sales. Vanessa returned to the SUV. 7 o'clock, Community Hall. At 6:56, the hall smelled of burnt coffee and new carpet. Isaiah entered with title records. Conversations thinned. Mud marked the beige tile behind him. A framed photograph of cattle sat on the front table. Vanessa covered it with a laminated development map. Item 4, she announced. Recognition of the Westfield entrance as a customary community access point. It has never been community property, Isaiah said. You'll have time during public comment. Grant stood beside the screen. Our traffic study shows this route cuts 7 minutes to the highway. Buyers were shown the connection during tours. By whom? Mr. Reed, Vanessa warned. Amy Chen, 39, wore square glasses and aligned every page with the table edge. The survey packet shows no easement. Grant changed slides. The route predates the final plat. Amy traced a red line. It ends here, at the ranch fence. A drafting issue, Vanessa said. A property line. A chair creaked in the back. No one spoke. Isaiah opened his folder. My deed, the county map, and the tax survey agree with her. Residents have used it openly, because someone told them they could. Several faces turned toward Vanessa. Grant stepped forward. We can compensate Mr. Reed for temporary access while council reviews the history. My land is not temporary. That attitude helps no one, Vanessa said. Amy glanced at the map. One corner of the cattle photograph remained visible beneath it, a black calf beside Marlene's memorial bench. What was there before the gravel? Amy asked. Vanessa pushed the map farther over the photograph. Unused pasture. Isaiah closed his folder. Grant lowered his voice. Name a reasonable number. No. A man near the coffee urn folded his arms. Vanessa reached for the voting sheet. I move that access continue while legal review is pending. Amy did not lift her pen. We cannot vote a road into existence. Vanessa's fingers stopped. Headlights swept across the windows. Isaiah saw 2 work trucks turn toward his field. Grant saw them too, then looked away. Isaiah stood. Who authorized work tonight? No one answered. Under Vanessa's hand, the laminated map trembled, covering the cattle completely. The first truck reached the pasture before Isaiah did. Its headlights swept across the broken gate, while 2 workers dragged the chain aside. Gravel rattled in the raised bed. Naomi pulled in behind him, phone recording. Turn it off, Isaiah called. The driver killed the engine. The exhaust ticked beside the metallic tap of chain against the post. A stocky man in a reflective vest climbed down. Luis Benton, road crew supervisor. We were told to widen the west access. There is no west access. Luis held up an HOA order signed by Vanessa Crow. It authorized removal of temporary obstructions. My fence is not temporary. Naomi pointed toward the barn. That camera records sound. Luis noticed the red light. Pack it up. Vanessa's SUV followed a second truck. Why is nothing happening? She demanded. Owner disputes the order, Luis said. Board approved continued use. The vote had not happened when I left, Isaiah replied. We had a quorum. A quorum cannot move my boundary. Grant got out. Let's not turn this into theater. Naomi raised her phone. Then stop bringing an audience. Vanessa pointed at the chain. Remove it. Luis stayed still. I need proof of an easement. You have my authorization. That is not the same thing. Her voice hardened. Your company wants the Phase 3 contract, correct? Luis folded the order. Take the chain down carefully. No digging. Isaiah stepped between him and the post. Touch it, and I document everyone here for trespass and damage. Grant sighed. You're making enemies over 8 minutes. No, you're making a road over land you don't own. A calf called from the dark pasture. Vanessa pulled the private property sign from the soil and dropped it face down. Temporary obstruction removed. Luis stared at the sign. That wasn't in the order. Spread enough gravel for cars to pass by morning. The truck bed lifted. White stone rushed out in a roaring sheet. Dust filled the headlights and burned Isaiah's throat. Gravel rolled toward Marlene's bench. Stop the bed. Luis struck the truck twice. The flow ended. Vanessa checked her watch. Continue. No, Luis said. Not through the memorial area. Grant pointed south. Move 10 feet. That crosses the drainage cut, Isaiah said. Vanessa smiled. Then you should have accepted compensation. One broken link rocked against the post with a quiet click. Naomi touched Isaiah's sleeve. Call the sheriff. He'll call it a civil dispute. So we let them do this? Isaiah looked at Luis. Will you sign the work order and record who directed the crew? Luis hesitated. Yes. Vanessa's smile vanished. Isaiah lifted the fallen sign and leaned it against the fence. Finish this load, he said. Naomi stared at him. Why? Because now they cannot say it was an accident. Luis handed him a carbon copy. At the bottom, beside property access verified, was Grant Holloway's signature. Vanessa called from the SUV. By sunrise, residents will have their road. Isaiah folded the page into his jacket and looked at the gravel covering the old drainage line. By sunrise, he said, the county will have your signature. The truck backed away, leaving the broken chain tapping against the post. At 8:12 the next morning, Isaiah placed Grant Holloway's signed work order beneath the glass at the records desk. Della Morse, 63, wore a silver braid and turned each page with a rubber fingertip. You want the easement history? She asked. All of it. She read the order. This says access verified. It wasn't. The printer coughed out 3 pages. No easement. No temporary license. No petition pending. You expected that, Della said. I needed the county to say it. She led him into a colder aisle and opened a drawer. Inside lay a 1978 survey. A blue pencil line crossed the south pasture where the gravel had been poured. Seasonal creek, she said. Rerouted after the flood of '81. Temporary berm. And a drainage cut. Nobody reopened the channel. The line curved past Marlene's bench. Dr. Owen Park entered, carrying a metal case. Rain spotted his glasses. Della said someone found the Reed channel. You remember it? Isaiah asked. I've searched for this survey for 6 years. Owen bent over the map. Restore it correctly, and water spreads through the old meadow instead of tearing toward the county ditch. Correctly? Permits, soil tests, flow modeling, notice to adjacent owners. How long? Weeks, unless someone contests it. Della pointed at the order. Someone already poured gravel on private land. That supports his claim, Owen said. It doesn't let us skip review. I'm not asking to skip anything. Owen noticed a note near the margin. Who wrote this? The handwriting was Marlene's. Isaiah opened the farm folder. Between tax receipts lay her watershed sketches. One showed the same blue curve beside willow roots. At the bottom she had written, Water remembers the road. The ventilation fan lifted the paper's corner. She planned this? Della asked. She wanted the wet meadow back. Less erosion. Dragonflies near the bench. Why didn't you finish it? Isaiah's thumb covered the date. We ran out of time. Owen removed his glasses. These notes document flow, depth, even soil layers. What did you do before ranching full-time? Isaiah closed the folder. Enough to know the difference between revenge and restoration. By noon, they stood in the south pasture. Wind pushed cedar dust over the white gravel. Owen drove a probe into the ground. Water darkened the soil 6 inches below the surface. This is still a channel. An HOA utility cart stopped beyond the fence. Amy Chen stepped out and raised her phone. Vanessa says you're trying to flood the neighborhood. Isaiah unfolded the survey on his truck hood. The creek carried water away from it for generations. And if the board fights this? They can file comments like anyone else. Her phone lowered. She won't like being anyone else. Owen planted 3 orange flags. I need your deed, rainfall records, and every photograph of the gravel work. You'll have them tonight. Della handed Isaiah a certified copy. This line was forgotten, not erased. He slid it beside Marlene's notes. The blue curves matched. Under the gravel came a faint, steady sound. Owen crouched and pressed his palm to the stones. Water, he said. Amy was already calling someone. The trickle continued beneath their feet. At 6:58 p.m., the community hall microphone squealed as Isaiah set his folder on the lectern. Vanessa sat beneath the HOA seal in a red jacket. Grant stood near a model of the development. Amy sat at the far end beside the certified survey. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes, Vanessa said. You gave the board 12, Naomi replied. Mr. Reed, begin. Isaiah unfolded the 1978 map. The route across my pasture is not an easement. It also crosses a historical drainage channel. Isaiah placed Della's certification beside the map. The county confirmed both facts this morning. Vanessa clicked her pen. That does not erase months of established use. Use without permission is still without permission. Grant stepped forward. Residents were shown that entrance in good faith. By your sales team, Amy said. His jaw tightened. By information available then. Vanessa raised one palm. We are not putting the developer on trial. No, Isaiah said. You are deciding whether my boundary matters. The air conditioner rattled above the exit. Vanessa tapped the timer. 2 minutes. Isaiah turned the map toward the residence. The gravel was poured after I objected. My chain was cut. My sign was removed. The work order says access was verified, and Mr. Holloway signed it. Administrative shorthand, he said. In the back row, Evelyn Ward, 68, recorded on her phone. The retired teacher's white hair caught the fluorescent light. Vanessa advanced the screen. A photograph of Isaiah's aging truck appeared, followed by his uneven fence and barn. This is the condition bordering our community, she said. Property values require responsible stewardship. Naomi stood. You're showing his truck instead of his deed. Sit down. Isaiah kept one hand on the map. My cattle are healthy. My taxes are current. My fence keeps what I own inside it. Someone laughed once, then stopped. Vanessa displayed the memorial bench, tilted after the gravel work. This neglected structure sits beside a route used by families. Naomi's fingers tightened around the chair back. Amy spoke softly. The crew moved that bench. Vanessa reached for the microphone switch. Your time is over. I have the original watershed plan and county review request. The microphone died in a burst of feedback. His final words disappeared beneath the whistle. Evelyn lowered her phone. Turn it back on. Vanessa gathered the voting sheets. Public comment has concluded. A resident folded his arms. Another studied his shoes. No one joined Evelyn. Isaiah refolded the map. Naomi came beside him. "Say something," she told the room. Chairs scraped, but nobody did. Vanessa began the vote. All in favor of continued temporary access? Hands rose slowly. Grant watched them count. Amy kept hers flat on the table. Outside, cold air struck Isaiah's face. He placed the folder in his truck and turned the red thermos until Marlene's worn initials faced him. Behind the hall, a diesel engine started. Naomi looked toward the pasture. They wouldn't work at night again. Gravel shifted inside a raised truck bed. Then headlights swept across the dark field toward the memorial bench. The truck reached the memorial bench before Isaiah crossed the field. "Stop!" Naomi shouted. White gravel poured from the raised bed with a hard roar. The bench vanished behind dust. Isaiah ran through the gate while Louis Benton hammered the cab. "Lower it!" The hydraulic lift groaned down. When the air cleared, one end of the bench rested crookedly against a cedar post. Vanessa stepped from her SUV. The board authorized continued access. "You authorized work after the meeting," Naomi said, filming. "Safety improvements." Grant climbed out behind her. "This can be fixed." Isaiah moved past them. The brass plaque had been torn from the bench. It lay face down among the white stones. He knelt. Cold stone pressed through his jeans, and the dust tasted like chalk at the back of his throat. Gravel clicked beneath cooling tires. Beyond the fence, a calf called once. Naomi crouched beside him. "Dad." He turned the plaque over. A crack ran through Marlene's name. Louis removed his hard hat. "I told them not to come this close." Vanessa folded her arms. It was an obstruction beside an active root. Isaiah stood with the plaque in both hands. Dust filled the engraved letters. "There is no root." Grant opened a leather folder. "Your current deed may not show the full history." He handed Isaiah a photocopy titled Temporary Access Agreement. At the bottom sat the signature of Isaiah's father, Amos Reed. Naomi read over his shoulder. "That's impossible." "It was found in the developer's closing records," Grant said. Isaiah checked the date. August 14th, 2021. His father had been buried in November 2019. Vanessa watched him. "You recognize the signature." "I recognize the name." "Then the agreement is valid." "No." Grant's expression shifted. "Council can review it." "Where is the original?" "In secure storage." "Whose storage?" Grant did not answer. Naomi raised her phone toward the page. Vanessa stepped between them. "You may not photograph private legal records." "You brought it onto his land?" Naomi said. Louis glanced at the barn camera. Its red indicator glowed above the door. "Mrs. Crow, I need written instructions before we move anything else." "You have them." "Not for the bench." "Then write that the owner interfered." Louis looked at Isaiah, holding the broken plaque. "I won't." Grant closed his folder. "Everyone is tired. Finish the lane, and we revisit the memorial tomorrow." Isaiah stepped into the gravel strip. "No more tonight." "You cannot block a community vote," Vanessa said. "I can stand on my land." The workers stayed still. One lowered the tailgate. Another shut off the loader. Engines clicked into silence one by one. Naomi wiped the plaque with her sleeve. The crack remained. Isaiah placed it name down on the bench, shielding the letters from dust. Then he saw a fresh survey stake behind the cedar post. A yellow ribbon marked a second line, wider than the first, cutting toward the old drainage channel. "Louis, did your crew place that?" Louis shook his head. Grant looked away. Isaiah pulled the stake free. Beneath the ribbon, a printed label read, Phase 3 Emergency Exit. At the bottom, in small type, was tomorrow's date. By 9:40 the next morning, the insurance adjuster stood beside the widened gravel strip. "This changes your risk classification," he said. "Unauthorized traffic, cattle exposure, drainage interference. Coverage could be suspended." "The access is not authorized," Isaiah replied. "The policy measures what is happening, not who is right." Naomi folded her arms against the cold wind. "So he gets punished because they ignore his deed?" 5 business days. A bank envelope waited on the truck seat. At the kitchen table, Isaiah opened it beside the cracked brass plaque. Any lapse in insurance would trigger a mortgage review. "They're cornering you," Naomi said. Isaiah turned the red thermos handle toward himself. "They're following paper. They're helping Vanessa win." At noon, a real estate broker arrived with a prepared folder. "Keep the house and north pasture," she said. "Sell the back 40, clear the debt, and let the dispute disappear." "Disappear for whom?" Naomi asked. "For everyone." The broker slid the agreement across the table and placed a pen beside Isaiah's hand. "You have until Friday." After she left, a loose chain struck metal in the barn, slow and hollow. "Don't sign it," Naomi said. "I haven't." "But you're thinking about it." "I'm thinking about the cattle, the mortgage, the insurance, and the clinic you still cannot afford. That land is not why I haven't opened. No, it is why I could help you." She stopped, then walked outside. The screen door shut softly. Isaiah lifted the pen. His fingers failed to close around it. He flexed them once and held the tip above the empty line. For nearly a minute, only the wall clock moved. Naomi returned carrying a rolled sheet tied with faded green ribbon. "Mom's watershed plan. I found it in the cedar chest." Blue lines crossed the pasture, matching the county survey. Marlene had added soil notes, rainfall totals, and a sketch of a wet meadow beside the bench. Naomi placed the cracked plaque on the contract. The fracture split Marlene's name. "If you sell," she said, "sell because you want another life, not because they made this one impossible." Isaiah lowered the pen. A knock sounded on the porch. Caleb Dunn stood outside with a survey case and county envelope. "I heard somebody invented a road," Caleb said. Isaiah handed him the temporary agreement. Caleb studied the stamp. This was not witnessed by anyone licensed in this county. "You're certain?" "The stamp belongs to a surveyor who retired in 2016. "Can you prove it?" Naomi asked. Caleb opened the envelope. "I can prove more." Inside was a certified boundary record showing the Phase 3 stake 12 feet inside Reed property. Attached was Owen Park's note. "Historic channel remains viable for permitted restoration." "Who wants the back 40? Caleb asked. "Holloway." "Then he needs the shortcut more than he admits." Isaiah compared Marlene's blue line with the county mark. They curved through the same gravel strip. He folded the sale contract twice and placed it beneath the broken plaque. "Call Owen." Before Naomi could dial, the barn camera sent an alert. A white SUV had stopped at the south gate, and someone was cutting the new chain. The bolt cutters closed around the new chain just as Isaiah reached the barn monitor. "Zoom in," Naomi said. On the screen, Vanessa's SUV idled beyond the gate. A man in a gray jacket leaned into the chain while another held a flashlight. The camera caught the plate, the cutters, and Grant Holloway's voice off-screen. "Make it look like maintenance." Isaiah saved the clip to 3 folders. Naomi reached for her coat. "We call Elena. We call everyone." By 10:17, Deputy Ruiz had photographed the cut chain, Caleb's stakes, and the tire marks. Vanessa stood beside the SUV with her phone against her chest. "This is harassment. He's filming residents without consent." Elena pointed at the barn camera. "It records his gait." Grant arrived, smiling too quickly. "There's been a misunderstanding." Caleb spread the boundary map across Isaiah's truck hood. "No misunderstanding. Your emergency exit is 12 feet inside Reed property." Grant's smile disappeared. Luis Benton pulled up and handed Elena the original crew order. "This is what they gave me." Beside access verified, Grant's signature pressed through all 3 carbon sheets. Vanessa turned on Luis. "You were paid to complete a job. I was paid to build where access existed." Isaiah stood by the chain, rubbing Marlene's initials on the thermos. At noon, Naomi found an envelope inside the feed invoice box. No stamp, no name. Inside was a flash drive and a note. They knew before the vote. Amy Chen waited in her car near the shed, her glasses fogged at the edges. "I copied the board emails," she said. "If Vanessa learns it was me, she'll say I altered them." "Did you?" "No." "Then tell the truth once." Amy swallowed. "Grant promised the HOA a landscaping fund if Phase 3 sales closed by October." Naomi inserted the drive into an old laptop in the feed room. The fan whined as folders opened. Maps, meeting drafts, sales messages. One email stopped them. No recorded easement found. Continue informal use until owner accepts offer or financial pressure forces sale. Grant had sent it. Vanessa replied 6 minutes later. Keep residents using it. Habit becomes expectation. Luis read over Naomi's shoulder. That was 2 days before they ordered my crew here. Amy nodded. The vote was for cover. A truck door slammed outside. Nora Bell, 41, crossed the yard with a recorder and rain-dark hair tucked behind one ear. I'm not publishing accusations. I need documents, dates, and people willing to use their names. Luis placed the carbon order on the table. Use mine. I moved the sign, he added. I should have stopped sooner. Nora turned to Isaiah. What do you want people to understand? That the land was never available. About them? He looked through the open door toward the gravel crossing Marlene's blue line. They can explain themselves. Nora's recorder clicked off. Then Naomi opened one final attachment, a sales brochure showing the future west entrance across the Reed pasture. In the corner was a handwritten instruction. Remove owner before wetland review. Amy gripped the table until her knuckles whitened. That isn't Vanessa's handwriting, she whispered. Outside, Grant's SUV rolled past the gate without stopping. At 8:06 the next morning, 3 county vehicles stopped beside the gravel strip. Malcolm Hayes stepped from the lead truck in a tan field coat. Owen Park met him near the orange flags while technicians unloaded gauges. Vanessa arrived before introductions ended. This is the owner, she said, pointing at Isaiah. He raises cattle and thinks an abandoned ditch lets him flood our community. Malcolm studied Isaiah's face. Engineer Reed? Grant stopped walking. You know him? Vanessa asked. Malcolm offered his hand. He led the Red Fork mitigation redesign after the 2007 floods. This county still uses his standards. Isaiah shook once. I left public work 12 years ago. That did not erase 20 years of it. Wind lifted the map corners. Damp clay smelled sharp beneath the gravel. Vanessa caught Grant's sleeve when her heel slipped. That changes nothing. He is altering drainage beside our homes. Nothing has been altered yet, Owen said. We are inspecting a restoration plan. Submitted when? 5 weeks ago. Before our vote? Before the second chain was cut, Isaiah said. Owen placed the 1978 survey beside Marlene's blue-lined plan. Historical channel, seasonal basin, reinforced banks, controlled release. Malcolm tapped the signature block. Approved yesterday at 4:42. Grant leaned closer. By your office? By 3 departments. Vanessa folded her arms. You cannot authorize him to make a lake against our boundary. It is not a lake, Isaiah said. It holds storm water on his land and releases it gradually, Malcolm said. Your development benefits. Our residents use this as an emergency exit. Caleb opened his survey case. No recorded exit exists. Deputy Ruiz handed Malcolm the copied agreement, dated 2 years after the signer died. The page cracked in the wind. Where is the original? Malcolm asked. Our legal department is locating it, Grant said. Then this proves nothing. A technician drove a probe through the gravel. Water rose around the shaft at once. Channel is active. The second checked the slope. Gravel blocks surface flow. A major storm could push water east. Toward the houses. One woman at the fence lowered her coffee cup. Vanessa stepped closer. You're taking his side because you worked together. No, I am reading measurements. Malcolm faced Isaiah. The permit allows gravel removal, bank stabilization, and controlled reopening. No release until the gauges pass inspection. They will. Public notice? Filed. Amy arrived with Nora Bell. The HOA received it Monday, she said. Vanessa removed it from the board packet. Every head turned. Grant answered first. That is an internal matter. Nora raised her recorder. Was the board told blocking this channel could increase flood risk? Grant looked toward the road. Malcolm signed the sheet and handed Isaiah the green copy. Proceed under supervision, Engineer Reed. The title passed through the crowd more quietly than an accusation. Isaiah folded the permit into his jacket. Around the probe, water darkened the stones in a widening circle. Then a technician called from the south culvert. Director, someone poured concrete into this pipe. Concrete, the technician called. Fresh enough to show tool marks. Malcolm Hayes crouched at the south culvert, while Owen Park brushed grit from the rim. The air smelled of wet limestone and diesel. Beneath the blocked pipe, water clicked against stone. Who had access? Deputy Ruiz asked. Grant answered too fast. Any contractor. Luis shook his head. Not mine. We never touched the culvert. Vanessa pointed at Isaiah. He benefits from this. So does every house downhill, Isaiah said. Ruiz photographed the plug and the tire tracks beside it. No one leaves until I have names. By noon, county crews had fenced the work zone. A small excavator lifted the illegal gravel in measured scoops while Owen checked each layer. White dust drifted. Residents watched from the legal road, some filming, others silent. Malcolm handed Isaiah a hard hat. You still want to proceed? The channel was approved. That wasn't my question. Isaiah looked toward Marlene's bench. Proceed. The first bucket exposed black soil. The second uncovered the curve shown on the 1978 survey. Water gathered in it at once. Natural bed confirmed. A technician called. Vanessa stepped toward the barrier. You're destroying our access. Ruiz blocked her. The county has documented that no easement exists. People have used it for months. After your crews removed a chain. Grant approached Malcolm. Can we negotiate a temporary crossing? No, Isaiah said. You don't speak for the county. He speaks for the landowner, Malcolm replied. By late afternoon, the concrete plug was gone and the culvert flushed. Owen opened the control gate 2 inches. Slow release. Watch the gauge. For several seconds, nothing happened. Wind moved through the reeds. The excavator idled. A cow shook its bell beyond the ridge. Then a clear thread of water appeared beneath the gravel line. It curved around one white stone, bright in the low sun. The soil darkened behind it, inch by inch, until the forgotten channel became a living line across the field. Naomi stood beside Isaiah. Mom was right. He touched the red thermos at his belt. She usually was. The stream widened, but stayed inside the flagged banks. Gauges blinked green. Owen checked the figures twice. Flow is stable. Malcolm signed the sheet. Restoration Phase 1 is active. A woman near the road lowered her phone. This carries water away from our houses? Yes, Owen said. The gravel was the hazard. Vanessa stared at the current. This is temporary. No, Malcolm replied. Seasonal flow. Permanent designation. 2 weeks later, native reeds lined the banks and a night storm filled the basin as predicted. At 6:31 a.m., Vanessa's white SUV entered through the broken west gate despite the county barriers. Its front tires crossed the buried gravel. The rear wheels sank. Brown water rose to the rims while the wipers dragged mud over the windshield. Grant climbed out and shouted, "Do something!" Isaiah stayed behind the fence as Samuel Price set his camera beside the gauge. There is no road here, Samuel said. Ruiz lifted the dated agreement from beneath Vanessa's wiper. Across the restored channel, the second orange flag surfaced from the water. At 9:03 a.m., the county hearing room lights dimmed, and Grant Holloway's email filled the wall. Keep residents using it. Habit becomes expectation. The projector fan hummed above 40 people who had once raised their hands for the shortcut. Vanessa sat rigid beside counsel. Grant rearranged 3 pages. Priya Shah, 43 chair of the review panel, leaned toward the microphone. Ms. Chen, did you alter this message? Amy adjusted her square glasses. No. Who had access? Mrs. Crow, Mr. Holloway, and me. Vanessa's attorney stood. My client disputes the context. You will have time, Priya said. Continue. Amy opened a binder. Her fingers caught on the tab twice. The board knew there was no easement before the vote. We were told continued use would pressure Mr. Reed to sell. A chair scraped in the second row. Grant whispered, That is not what I said. Amy turned. You wrote it. Nora Bell's recorder light glowed near the aisle. Priya called Luis next. He removed his cap before sitting. Who ordered the chain removed? Mrs. Crow. And the sign? Same order. The memorial bench? Luis looked at Isaiah. No order covered it. I should have stopped the truck sooner. The room stayed still until the ventilation clicked on. Vanessa folded her hands. Mr. Benton is protecting his company. Luis slid the carbon order across the table. Then explain Mr. Holloway's signature under access verified. Grant's attorney reached for it. Priya stopped him. Exhibit 12. Another email appeared. West entrance must be operating before Phase 3. Listings go live. A resident raised her hand. We were told it was an emergency route. Public comment comes later, Priya said. Then put us down for it. All of us. Murmurs spread. A yellow legal pad moved along the row. Grant stood. Marketing language is not a property claim. The route appeared on preliminary buyer materials. Nora raised her head. Created by your office? He sat without answering. Priya changed the slide. A brochure showed the future west entrance crossing Reed Land. In the margin, remove owner before wetland review. Amy gripped the binder. That note came from Grant's assistant after a sales meeting. This is defamatory, Grant snapped. Sit down, Priya said. His chair struck the floor. Isaiah had spoken only to confirm his deed number. Priya faced him. What remedy are you requesting? He placed the cracked brass plaque beside the survey. Restore what was damaged. Correct the maps. Audit the money tied to that road. No personal damages? My claim is filed. Vanessa laughed once. He built a wetland and wants to look reasonable. Naomi's hand closed around the red thermos in her lap. Priya turned to Vanessa. The wetland was permitted. The crossing was not. The legal pad reached the panel with 28 signatures demanding review of board finances, land records, and developer payments. Amy added a ledger entry labeled Community Beautification Fund. The amount matched a private transfer from Holloway Development. Priya read it twice, then switched off the projector. We are expanding the inquiry. In the sudden brightness, Vanessa looked not at Isaiah, but at Amy. At 10:26 a.m., Priya Shah returned with 3 findings beneath a blue cover. The west crossing was never lawful, she said. The board exceeded its authority. The developer supplied false access claims, and the agreement bearing Amos Reed's name will be referred to County Council. Vanessa's attorney rose. We object to any suggestion of forgery. Priya did not look up. Then counsel may decide what word applies. The room smelled of warm paper and dust. Grant pressed his thumb into his folder until it bent. The HOA must reimburse fence repairs, pasture restoration, survey costs, and damage to the memorial site, Priya continued. Holloway Development will fund the entrance upgrade and remove every sales reference to Reed property. A resident behind Vanessa whispered, How much? Enough, Grant said. Not to you, the resident replied. Vanessa turned. No one lowered their eyes. Priya slid forward another page. Ms. Crow is removed from board authority immediately. Her property management license will undergo review. The transfer to the beautification fund is frozen pending audit. Amy released a breath. Nora's pen moved across her notebook. Grant leaned toward Isaiah. We can settle privately before this gets uglier. Isaiah folded the order once. It is already public. I can increase the offer. The creek does not need an offer. Grant's chair scraped back. You think this ends with a wet field? No. It ends when your maps tell the truth. Outside, cameras crowded the steps. Heat rose from the pavement, smelling of rain. Nora held out her recorder. Mr. Reed, do you feel vindicated? Isaiah looked past her at Luis near the railing. The work is not finished. What consequence do you want? Repair the land. Repair the records. Vanessa emerged behind him. A reporter called, Did you know the signature was dated after Amos Reed's death? Her attorney guided her toward a car. Luis approached with his cap in hand. I gave the county every order and timesheet. That was right. I still moved the sign. Yes. Luis swallowed. I can rebuild the bench. Isaiah handed him the cracked plaque. Start with the name facing up. At the ranch that evening, Naomi set the compensation check beside the fencing invoice and a metalworker's estimate. You could pay down the mortgage, she said. After the repairs. You always say after. He turned the check so the amount faced the wall. This money came from damage. It goes back into what was damaged. A knock sounded at the screen door. Amy stood there, holding an archive box. The new board asked me to stay through the audit, she said. They found 11 property maps with unverified access lines. Naomi lifted the lid. Yellow tabs marked roads, trails, and utility cuts across neighboring parcels. 11? Some may be harmless. None were checked. Amy placed Vanessa's resignation beside the box. Grant refused to sign anything. From the pasture came frogs along the restored channel. Naomi looked toward the dark window. What happens to the other lines? Isaiah lifted the box. Tomorrow, we start with the first one. On the porch, Luis waited under the light with cedar boards, a drill, and Marlene's plaque polished clean. At 7:14 the next morning, 11 maps covered folding tables inside the HOA clubhouse. Amy Chen had marked each unverified road in yellow. Helen Carter, 56, the new board chair, wore steel-rimmed glasses and kept a contractor's ruler in her shirt pocket. We verify ownership before we touch a map, she said. No exceptions. A resident frowned. What if a route has been used for years? Then we check twice. Isaiah stood beside the archive box. Outside, hammers struck fresh cedar posts, and the smell of cut wood drifted through the open doors. Helen slid the first map toward Caleb. Recorded easement? No. Written permission? No. Remove the line. Amy drew a red slash through it. One by one, the invented roads disappeared. By noon, the board adopted 3 rules. Every access change required a licensed survey, landowner notice, and public posting. Developer funds had to be disclosed before any vote, and no emergency route could appear in sales material without county approval. Will rules stop another Vanessa? Naomi asked. Helen capped her pen. No, records make it harder to hide. At the ranch gate, 24 residents waited with gloves and shovels. Luis had reset the memorial bench. Marlene's repaired plaque faced the creek. An older man held out a new chain. I voted for the shortcut. Isaiah took one end. Then help close it. They stretched it between the posts. A woman in gardening boots approached Naomi. I drove through here 6 times. I saw the sign. Naomi let the pause stand. I should have turned around, the woman said. Yes, Naomi replied. No one applauded. They returned to work. Near the wetland, residents planted switchgrass while Owen checked the bank. Mud cooled through Isaiah's boots. Frogs clicked beneath the reeds, and dragonflies flashed blue over the water. Helen called from the roadside. We found something. 4 residents had tied a rope around the old metal sign Grant's crew had installed. Residents only. Pull together, Luis said. The post resisted. Rust groaned below the soil. Hands slipped. The sign tilted toward Isaiah's field, as if claiming it one last time. Again, Helen said. They pulled. The post tore free with a wet, sucking sound. Black earth fell from the concrete base. A resident wiped his palms. Where do you want it? Not on my land, Isaiah said. Helen laid it flat in the county truck for evidence. That afternoon, the county launched a public registry showing every verified private road, easement, and emergency route. Developers were ordered to submit access documents before advertising homes. The HOA posted its audit, meeting records, and funding sources online. At sunset, Helen brought Isaiah the revised community map. The west edge ended cleanly at his fence. There, she said. The boundary is honest. Isaiah studied it, then watched people pack tools into their cars. Honest on paper, he said. Now keep it that way. Helen nodded. Naomi sat on the restored bench and touched Marlene's name. Across the creek, someone had left the red thermos upright on the fence post. The last truck departed through the legal entrance. No tires crossed the field. By the first heavy rain in October, the restored basin held exactly as Owen Park had predicted. Water spread through the low meadow in a silver sheet, slowed by switchgrass, then slipped through the reopened channel toward the county ditch. Across the fence, porch lights glowed in the subdivision, but no alarms sounded and no yards flooded. Naomi stood beside Isaiah under the barn awning, listening to rain drum on the metal roof. "Mom would have checked the gauge twice," she said. Isaiah looked at the green light. 3 times. In November, County Council closed the access case. Vanessa Crow was barred from serving on the HOA board for 5 years, and the licensing panel placed her property management credential under review. The forged agreement was traced to Grant Holloway's sales office. His company lost its Phase 3 permit, paid for the legal entrance, and entered a compliance program requiring independent review of every future land claim. At the final public meeting, Grant sat in the back row without his usual folder. Priya Shah read the findings aloud. "No road may be advertised, mapped, or used without verified title records and written notice to the landowner." Helen Carter added the rule to the board handbook. Amy Chen, now treasurer, posted the audit and every development payment on the public site before sunset. Louis Benton rebuilt Marlene's bench with cedar from the ranch. He set the repaired brass plaque into the wood and tightened the final screw by hand. "I kept the broken piece," he told Isaiah. "Felt wrong to throw it away." "Keep it," Isaiah said. "Remember where the line was." By spring, frogs gathered in the reeds. Blue dragonflies skimmed the water, and cattle drank from a fenced trough fed by the overflow system. The county's digital registry now showed verified easements, private roads, and emergency routes for every development in the district. Survey checks became mandatory before HOA votes, and new board members attended annual training on property rights and conflict disclosure. Evelyn Ward's recording of the meeting was used in that training. Nora Bell's reporting led 3 neighboring communities to correct false access maps. Amy stayed long enough to finish the audit, then stepped down without ceremony. Louis opened a smaller contracting firm and placed one rule at the top of every work order: ownership verified before equipment moves. Naomi converted the old tack room into a veterinary clinic. On opening morning, residents from both sides of the fence arrived with dogs, barn cats, and nervous calves. No one used the field as a shortcut. After the last appointment, she found Isaiah at the creek with Marlene's red thermos resting on the rebuilt bench. The paint was faded, but the initials near the handle had been polished clean. "You finally brought it back," Naomi said. "Heard the coffee tastes better here." She sat beside him. Across the water, the legal road curved toward the highway, farther than the old crossing, but solid and dry. "Was it worth all of it?" she asked. Isaiah watched the current follow the blue line Marlene had drawn years before. It had to be finished. Naomi leaned against the bench. The evening air smelled of wet cedar and new grass. Behind them, the clinic light clicked on automatically. A dragonfly settled on the repaired plaque. The water remembered. Have you ever seen a neighbor, board, company, or official act, as though repeated use gave them rights they never had? Share what happened in the comments, especially if one document, witness, or quiet decision finally changed the outcome. Send this story to someone who believes dignity should not depend on money, influence, or how loudly a person speaks. Stories like Isaiah's remind us that patience is not surrender, and that real justice often means repairing the rules as well as the damage. Subscribe for more stories about fairness, quiet resilience, and ordinary people who create lasting change without losing themselves. Your support helps these stories reach viewers who may need the courage to protect a boundary, question an abuse of power, or stand beside someone who has been ignored.